up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Angela and I make videos about lawyer life, law school, and all things in between. We also have a new series called The Legal Breakdown Show where I do lawyer reactions, rundowns, and reviews on all things legal. Today's video is going to be a pretty chill chat where I'll be discussing 9 things I worried about as a first-year attorney that no longer matter. The inspiration for this video was when I was having a chat with a baby lawyer, a new lawyer who just started a new job where they're just, a little nervous and has some concerns about, being a young lawyer. And also for a lot of you guys who will be doing internships either this spring or this upcoming summer. I know for a lot of us when we start a new position, we have a lot of nerves. We want to do really well because it's just in our nature as law students and lawyers. So I'm hoping that this chat will kind of ease some of your nerves and let you guys know that it'll all be okay. And a lot of the stuff that we worry about is not a big deal. It all just seems to kind of work itself out. So let's go ahead and jump into the video as I want this to be a quick one. Okay, the first thing that I was so scared about is, will I make my hours? This one will be relatable to people who work in private practice at law firms. A lot of firms, you do have what they call a billable hour requirement where you are expected to bill X amount of hours per year. And the billable hour requirement will depend on the locale of the firm, the type of firm you're at. When you are starting to get into the larger firms, the billable hour requirement can be anywhere from 1,800 to 2,200, 2,300 hours, which sounds like a ton, especially for a first year. It is super daunting. That was something I worried about so much as a first year. And I'm just here to tell you that you get over that. Like, first of all, at most firms, unless you're in like crazy times like right now, the legal market is so hot, especially if you're a deal lawyer, an M&A corporate lawyer like myself. The market is so crazy. There's so much work to do. But a lot of times firms will not hold it against you as a first or even second year lawyer where you don't make your hours, especially if you're not particularly busy in that practice group. But as time goes on, trust me, you will not be worried about making your hours. There's usually plenty of work to do. There's so much to do. And so that's something that I was so worried about as a first year. And it's just something that works itself out, right? Like when you first start a firm, it's hard to get into the swing of things. So you'll a lot of times find yourself twiddling your thumbs. You're not having enough to do, not billing a full, at minimum 8-hour day, but it gets better as you get more immersed, as you learn more. The work will come, you will be fine, you will be okay. Hopefully for you guys who are worried about that, you find some comfort in my assurance because I've been there. My second biggest concern was I didn't know anything about the practice area that I was going into. So if you guys are not new here, I started out my career doing real estate and finance law, but then I switched over to general corporate and mergers and acquisitions law. So when I first started practicing, I had no idea what I was doing. You guys, that's okay. That's normal. As you guys who are in law school have been through law school does not teach you a niche practice. It teaches you general principles, how to think like a lawyer, how to analyze and reason like a lawyer, but it doesn't teach you how to do what it is you're going to practice. And so when you go into a new job as a first year lawyer, your job knows that. They're going to train you, okay? So it is so daunting. It's so scary to say, hey, I'm going to be practicing this area of law that I don't know. It is fine. You'll be fine. You will learn with the experience. You will keep learning. Honestly, as a lawyer, you're going to see something new probably every single day. So you'll never stop learning, but it will be okay. And no one is expecting you to come in on day 1 or even year 1 or year 2 knowing what the heck you're doing. They will train you. You will learn quickly and you will do great, okay? So stop worrying. This next one is really personal to me. Not everybody will have this experience. It just depends on what law school you go to. But one of my biggest concerns and one of the things that really pulled out my imposter syndrome was that I went to a lower tiered law school. So those of you who are familiar with law school, there's high ranked law schools, there's mid-tier ranked law schools, and then there's kind of lower ranked law schools. Unfortunately for some in the legal profession, we do kind of work in a hierarchy. So people will sometimes judge you based on what school you went to or what firm you worked at or whatever, like depending on who you come into contact with. So I know for me, I've always worked in large law firm settings, and typically you'll find that people in large law firms went to really good schools or they had really good grades, and that's just based on kind of the requirements for hiring. They tend to go for people who excelled in law school or again went to a really prestigious law school. So for me, I did not go to a high ranked law school. I didn't even go to a mid-ranked law school. So although I made good grades, I still had imposter syndrome because I knew you know, so-and-so went here. Like, I worked with people who went to Harvard, right? And here I was at, you know, a low-ranked law school. So I'd be like, oh wow, they went to Harvard, they went to Columbia, and I just went here. I went to a state undergrad. So I had major concerns sometimes that I wasn't good enough. And you know what I say to that now? I'm like, wait, hold on. I am very capable. And I just had to look at it from a different perspective. Like, you earned your way here. You're not here because you got lucky. You worked really hard to get here, and you had to overcome certain obstacles that a Harvard law student maybe didn't have to overcome because they went to a better school. So just kind of repositioning my mindset that, like, no, I earned my way here, and I'm here because I deserve to be. And my school that I went to doesn't define me, or even grades, or even anything doesn't define you. Once you get somewhere, the work you put in, the work you show gets you there. So that was a huge concern of mine. So for my people who are watching this who may not have went to the best school, and you get into certain situations where you're working alongside people who went to the better schools or the more prestigious schools, you earned your way there. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that get you down. Don't let that let you doubt yourself. Big yourself up and know that you earned that spot to be there, and that's all that matters, is that you're there now. Okay, so the next one is, I was worried about the stigma of switching law firms. So when I first started at my first firm, I just knew I was gonna like work there forever. You know, it's kind of naive to think about now. I mean, some people do that, but it's way less common. You switch around, you switch career paths a lot of times, you switch law firms, you switch organizations, you go in-house, you go work for the government. I mean, there's all sorts of options, right? So when I moved to the Midwest, I kind of had an excuse, right? It's like, oh, I'm moving for family reasons and my law firm's not in this state, so, you know, I'm fine. But then I changed law firms again. So for those of you who are new here, I have lateraled to 2 different law firms. So I started at one firm, lateral to another one, and then lateral to another one. So I've worked at 3 law firms, and I've only been practicing, this is my 6th year practice. So my concern is like, oh, I don't want to look flaky. I don't want that stigma of like that I don't stick to anything, that I'm not consistent. And you guys, no one cared. No one cared, because we live in a world now where when opportunities come up, you go, you know your worth, and you do what's best for you in your career. Now, I'm not saying that you should just hop all over the place, no. But if an opportunity comes up that you cannot pass up, or you're getting better training, or you're getting better development, it is okay to lateral, even if you are young in your career. So I was a little worried about like the stigma with that, like in interviewing and stuff like that. But honestly, you guys, it didn't even come up. So for those of you who might be concerned about that, don't worry about it. The next concern I had was I was scared that I wasn't choosing the right career. So far in my career, I've only worked in private practice at large law firms. And in law school, there were many people who talked very negatively about like big law. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what if I'm making a mistake and I'm going down this path and I don't like it? What if I don't even want to be a partner at a law firm? I just was really nervous that I was making the wrong decision as far as like the path that I was going down. And then even more specifically, like, what if I get into this type of law and I don't even like it? Fast forward to now, I started doing real estate and finance. I'm a corporate and M&A lawyer. It was really easy for me to switch over. I did early in my career. And now as a more experienced person, I've just realized it is okay to pivot. So many people in their careers go through different whole career changes. So as a lawyer who maybe decides they want to change the type of law they practice or change the type of organization they practice, it is okay. You don't have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life as a recent law grad. It is okay. Okay, my next concern was overbilling. Now this one is again for my people who work in private practice at law firms, because you have those billable hours and you bill clients based on the time that you spend on their matters. So as a first year, something that would take a more senior attorney 30 minutes to do might take you 3 hours to do. And so I used to be so concerned, like the partner's gonna see that I spent so much time on this matter and he's gonna think I'm incompetent and I'm overbilling and this and this and that. That is not your concern. As a young associate, you have to understand that your rate is much lower and there is a learning curve, and that is why your rate is much lower. Take all the time you need. It is not your responsibility to self-audit your time. If the partner believes that you spent too much time on it, they will cut down your time or they will do what they need to do with the bill. But it's not up to you to self-audit. Your job is to do the work, learn the work, and try as hard as you can to develop yourself to do better. But you should not worry about that starting out. That's normal. Everyone experiences that. Of course, it's going to take you more time than it would take someone who's been practicing for 20 years to do something. Okay, so the next concern I had was that I was a first generation attorney. I had no one in my family who had actually like practiced law, practiced at a law firm, did corporate law at that. Like, I didn't know any corporate lawyers, and I just felt such like an outsider because so many people I work with came from a family of lawyers. I had lawyer buddies or their friends were lawyers. I mean, I had no friends who were practicing, you know, other than people I met in law school. But I had no family. I had no one to call when I felt like so overwhelmed. And that was just a concern to me because I'm like, do I belong here? Was again that self-doubt, that imposter syndrome coming through. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Again, you earned your way there. You're there. That's all that matters. Maybe you'll be the first to create the generation of attorneys, but you don't need to know a ton of attorneys. You don't need to come from a family of attorneys to be a good attorney. Okay. The next concern I had was being afraid to make mistakes, which is absolutely insane. Like, first of all, we're all human. We make mistakes. But second of all, again, when you get out of law school, everything is going to be new to you. You're going to make mistakes, and people know that, and people are aware of that. And the people that you work with, the people that you work for, are not going to let something you did go out the door without their eyes on it. That's just not how it works. As the first year, there's going to be a second, probably third set of eyes on whatever you were doing. So don't be afraid to make mistakes because it's going to happen. Now, with that being said, don't be careless and say, oh, it doesn't matter how I do this because somebody's going to look at it. That is not the mindset to have. The mindset to have is if you make a mistake, learn from it and try not to make it again. However, don't keep yourself up at night and so scared to make a mistake because that is natural. Just don't beat yourself up and don't stress yourself out too much about not knowing things and being afraid to make mistakes. Just when you make a mistake, learn from it and try to do better the next time. Okay, so the final thing I want to talk about today, I think is a huge concern for so many law grads, but it's not really based on performance or anything. It's really based on like your personal life. And so one of my biggest concern was not having enough time for my family and friends and relationship. So as many of you guys know, especially if you've been watching the channel, like, you know, like, I can be really busy at times, especially working in private practice, the type of law that I chose. It can be very busy. So one of my biggest concerns was not having enough time for the relationships that matter to me in my life. So at that time, it was my boyfriend, now husband, my family, and some of my closest friends. I wanted to make sure I still had a life. I did want to work at a great firm. I did want to do great substantive work, but I did not want to completely sacrifice my life. And, you know, everyone talks about it, like work-life balance. And I've been candid about it on this channel before. It's like work-life balance is not always easy as a lawyer. It's just not. But I will say, I don't think that's a lawyer thing. I think it's a career thing. I think it's a life thing. And what I would say is, if I were to go back now and tell myself, I wouldn't tell myself to be worried about it. I wouldn't stress myself out about it. What I would do is tell myself to prioritize the people that matter to me and set boundaries so that I don't have to compromise my personal life. And that's not to say that you won't have to cancel things, and that's not to say that you won't have to work on vacations or anything like that. I'm just being 100% honest with you guys. But that is saying that, hey, my husband comes first. Hey, my children come first. Hey, you know, whatever is important to you comes first. Hey, I am going to go work out 3 times a week because my health comes first. No matter what, I'm going to put that time in. Like, prioritizing. So I'm not saying that work-life balance isn't hard. Okay, that's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is, but instead of just worrying about it and stressing about it, I would tell myself from jump to prioritize the important things to me and set boundaries. Okay, you guys, so like I said, I didn't want this video to be that long. I just wanted to kind of have that open chat with you guys, just like I said, based on some of the conversations I've been having. I know a lot of you guys might have some concerns. Comment down below any other concerns you might have or any questions that maybe I didn't cover, and we can kind of chat in the comments. Also, comment down below if you've been staying tuned on the new series that I put on the channel, The Legal Breakdown, and what you think about it. And make sure you subscribe, post notification bells are on. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.